Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is pop. Let's take a look at some of the definitions or ways that we use this verb. The first way you might hear pop used is to mean to make a light, explosive sound. For this definition, I think of little firecrackers that are really popular here near the 4th of July. Many of them will make these light sounds as they release light or smoke or other things, right? But we might hear this little pop, pop, pop kind of sound with it. A second way you might hear pop used is to mean to cause something to burst, to cause something to open up. A third way you might hear pop used is to refer to a sound that some people will get in their ears due to a change in altitude. So, if you've flown on a plane before, you might have had this sensation that there are like little things going off in your ears, and it's kind of the change in altitude as you go up in the air. A fourth way we can use the verb pop is to refer to heating food until it bursts open. So, with this definition, I can't help but think of popcorn, right? Very popular treat and snack, and that idea that it's going to be heated, usually in some oil and maybe other seasonings, until it bursts open into kind of that soft, fluffy food that's quite enjoyable. A fifth way you might hear the verb pop used is to refer to taking a drug. So you might hear the phrase pop pills. You should know that pop is a regular verb. Our verb here is a one syllable consonant vowel consonant. So as we add our suffixes here, we're going to uh, double the ending consonant. So we're doubling the P. So you can see that as I've made the progressive here. So I have our base verb pop, I doubled the last P, and then I added ing. That forms popping. The past tense and participle forms are going to follow a similar pattern, right? So I double that last P, then I add ed. Our base verb, pop, ends in an unvoiced P sound. So our past tense ending is going to make a T sound. Popped, popped. Okay. Now, there are so many phrasal verbs that use pop, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So we won't do any individual verb tense practice, but I'll try and point them out as we go. So the first phrasal verb we're going to look at is to pop by. This means to have a brief visit, a quick visit at someone's home. An example of this might be, she'll pop by before she leaves town. Okay, so here's an example of simple future. Will pop by is our verb here, and it means she's going to make a short stop at maybe our home, your home, depends who we're talking to here, before this person continues on their travels. Another phrasal verb you might hear is to pop back. This means that someone is returning to a particular place. They're either doing it very quickly or briefly. You're going to notice a pattern here as we look at these phrasal verbs. Briefly and quickly are going to be repeated often as we discuss. So, another example here, I'll pop back to my office and get the book. Right? So, imagine a situation. Maybe I've left my office, I've gone to a conference room, a meeting room, and I realize, oh, I needed to bring this particular book. So I'm saying I'm going to return to my office very quickly, grab that book, and then come back to this meeting location. I'll pop back is another simple future example. Another phrasal verb you might hear is pop down. Again, we're going to a particular place or location rather quickly or briefly. And generally, when we use it, it means kind of going to a lower level. An example here. Hi, I'm your new neighbor on the second floor. Pop down sometime for a drink. Right? So Here's an imperative. I'm kind of giving a command, encouraging someone to come for a brief visit, or come, yeah, come to get to know each other a little bit better. The next phrasal verb we'll discuss is to pop in or pop into. This can have a few different meanings. We're going to talk about 3 of them today. The first would be to come or go somewhere for a brief visit. An example here. They popped in for a quick visit this past weekend. Here's an example of a simple past tense sentence. We've got a time signal there letting us know that this event occurred at a known point in the past. A second way to use pop in or pop into is to mean to put or toss something into something else. And maybe we're doing that really quickly or very informally. Another way to think of that, casually. Here's an example. You should pop a mint in before you go talk to the customer. Right? So here, maybe someone's trying to be kind. They're giving advice here, should pop, right? They want this other person to put a mint into that person's mouth before they go and talk to someone. So maybe some unpleasant breath. A third way we can use pop in or pop into is to mean that something is occurring very suddenly in one's head or in one's mind. An example of this: the best idea just popped into my head. Here's another simple past tense sentence, right? And this idea, oh, I've got a great idea, right? And this person would probably begin to share it. Few more phrasal verbs for us to look at. The next one, pop off, can have a couple different meanings. One might be to say something very quickly or abruptly. Here's an example of this. The students popped off several questions before the bell rang. Right? So maybe they haven't understood something and they're trying to get more information from their teacher. And so one asks, then another, then another. Right? We can almost kind of picture that. A second way we might use pop off is to refer to someone having a rather sudden outburst. So maybe they're making an angry remark or angry comment. An example of this could be, the coach has popped off to the referees a few times already during this game. Right? So I imagine we have all seen this happen if you're a viewer of sports. So game is going on and maybe kind of all of a sudden, right, the coach begins to yell at the referees, making angry remarks or making an angry comment. Has popped off is an example of the present perfect. The next phrasal verb we'll discuss is pop out. This is used most commonly in baseball and softball, and we're referring to hitting a ball in the air and having it caught by an opposing player. Right, so we're recording an out in this with this particular phrasal verb. An example of this: he pops out at least once a game. Here's an example of a simple present sentence where I'm talking about somebody's habit. This particular athlete has the habit of hitting a fly ball that can be caught by the opposing team at least once a game. Another phrasal verb you might hear is pop over. Again, connects to some of the earlier ones we've already discussed. So we're having a brief visit, generally at someone's home. An example of how that might be used: can I pop over to borrow that book? Right? So here I'm asking for permission from someone. And again, this idea, I'm not going to stay at this person's house for a long time. I'm not going to eat. I won't have a cup of coffee. I'm just making this brief visit to pick up a particular item. The last phrasal verb we'll discuss is to pop up. It means that something is suddenly appearing or becoming available. An example of this: a few new problems have already popped up. So maybe we're working on a project together, and someone again is commenting here in the present perfect, so describing something that's continuing into this present time that suddenly we didn't anticipate it. We didn't think we were going to have these problems, but now there are a few for us to resolve. Let's continue looking at some words and phrases that are related to our verb of the day, pop. The first word we're going to look at is just the noun form of this word. So if I use pop as a noun, notice my pronunciation is exactly the same, the spelling is exactly the same. I could be referring to a light explosive sound. So an example of this, did you hear those pops? Right? Did you hear those sounds? A second way you might hear this noun used is a way to refer to a carbonated drink. Okay? So in the United States, different regions, different areas of the country will refer to carbonated drinks differently. I grew up saying soda, so I put that in there. Maybe you're familiar with that. People in the South might say Coke more commonly. When I hear the word pop, I think of people in Chicago, in and around that area. I went to college near that area, and so many of my classmates would say, "What's your favorite kind of pop?" Right? And they're asking Pepsi, Sprite, Coke, any of those things. Okay. Another related word you might hear is the noun popper. Many times this is used specifically to refer to some kind of utensil or tool or maybe even a machine that is used to make popcorn. An example here. The theater's popper is broken, so we didn't eat popcorn while at the movie. The next noun we're going to look at is pop fly. Again, this is connected to the sports of baseball and softball, and it's a time where we have a ball hit very high into the air, and it's generally thought that it's going to be easy for the other team to catch it and make an out. An example here, she caught the pop fly for the first out in this inning. Okay. Now, a phrase you might hear is a pop or per pop. And when we use this phrase, we're talking about the cost of something and we're talking about the cost per item. Here's an example. Those granola bars cost $3 a pop. Right? So what this means is one granola bar, $3, right? The second one, now my total is 6, right? So for each one, it's $3. The last phrase you might hear is pop the question. This is used sometimes to talk about someone proposing marriage to another person. Now, the way I've heard it the most over my life is always referring to a man asking a woman for do you want to be married in the future, but I believe in equality, so my question here, has she popped the question yet? uh, Anyone, right, can do this. It's not just limited to one particular person or group of people. So this particular verb was requested by Robert, and I want to thank him for this great suggestion. So many different ways that we use this verb pop and some related words as well. If you have any verbs that you'd like to hear me talk about, please feel free to make a comment. I appreciate your suggestions. I appreciate you watching, and I hope you have a great day.